Recovery. I'm your host, Ram Naresh Dwarika, as usual on a Thursday morning, welcoming you, all our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago, of the Caribbean, and wherever you are in the world, to this another program in the series Addiction and Recovery. This morning, we are going to be looking at a very, very important and interesting subject. This was a topic that was suggested to me by an avid follower. And as I say this, I would like to encourage those of you who are listening to the program. You can always text me at the number on your screen if you have suggestions, comments, questions, or even if you would like to suggest a topic that we could deal with on this program. And this morning, we are going to be looking at a topic that has very rare. I myself have not looked at this in a very long time. It's the role of nutrition in addiction and recovery. You know, lately we've been hearing the little slogan, you know, if you don't use food as medicine, you will have to start using medicine as food. And from that perspective, I want us to look at the importance of using nutrition to keep ourselves healthy and to keep us also in recovery. Because, you know, up till today, I don't know of any medication that we have been able to produce in pharmacology that can really cure any human condition. All the medicines do, as far as I know, and I stand to be corrected, is they relieve the symptoms of the diseases, the condition. They make it more tolerable. But at the end of the day, the body has to make the medicine and to keep you sustained the absence of symptoms, to literally cure you. The body alone, only the body can do that. And how the body does that? The body can only do it from the ingredients we give the body. We send to our stomachs. You know, the stomach is the big manufacturing agent for all of these medicines. So when people think about recovery from alcohol or drug addiction, they usually think about counseling, support groups, treatment programs, or spiritual recovery programs. And as I say this, let me remind you all this program is being recorded. It will be posted on Facebook and YouTube soon after the completion this morning. And it will also be repeated on radio and TV Jagriti at 10 p.m. tonight. So those of you who can't stay for the whole program, you can also come back and listen to it. And very importantly, you can send this link to someone who might be in recovery or who you believe might be having a problem with alcohol or drug addiction so that they can also benefit from it. Because the nature of this disease, that is alcoholism and drug addiction, is very stigmatized. So a lot of people don't really come forward or are willing. They are in denial. They're not willing to admit that they have a problem. So if you send this to them, you might very well save their lives. So again, coming back to the subject this morning, now, while the counseling and the support groups and the treatment programs, the spiritual recovery programs are all very important. However, if we neglect the nutrition, you know, the eating and the right things, giving the body the right chance to help and heal itself, then we might be shortchanging ourselves. But there's another factor that is often ignored, and that factor is nutrition. Substance addiction damages the body in many, many ways. It affects the brain, it affects the liver, the heart, the digestive system, the immune system, and the nervous system. In last week's program, I spoke about all of these things, the damage that alcoholism and drug addiction do. So this topic comes straight out of that discussion, and it also causes serious nutritional deficiencies. Because, I mean, it is common sense to realize when a person is drinking and using drugs, they're not eating well, they're not sleeping well, they don't pay attention to what they're eating, when they're eating, and all of that. And we'll discuss that as we go along in the program this morning. Many people entering recovery are actually malnourished. And this is why, at the outset, it is important to have a medical evaluation in the initial stages of recovery because, you know, a doctor will be able to pick up these things, doing blood tests and so on. And this has implications for choosing programs. You need to have if you are going to enlist yourself in a rehab program, it is important that they do have this medical component that can do an evaluation at the outset. So today, I want to discuss how addiction damages nutrition, how poor nutrition worsens cravings and causes relapse. I want to also look at the connection between food and brain chemistry, nutritional deficiencies that are common in addiction. What are some of those things, especially peculiar to drinking and drug use? I also want to look at foods that help the brain recover and practical nutrition strategies for people in recovery. Hopefully, in the time given, we will be able to cover all of these. And by the end of this program, I want to be able to show you all how nutrition can be a powerful tool in recovery. So let's look at addiction and malnutrition. Most people struggling with addiction do not eat properly. Substances like alcohol, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines, and prescription drugs abuse often lead to poor eating habits. Now, many individuals, what they do, they skip meals, and I can relate to this. You'll find a lot, and this is why I suggest to people when they are in recovery, there's a little word called HALT, H-A-L-T. The H stands for hunger. Because when you have your stomach full, there's less likelihood for you to get the cravings for alcohol and drugs. So it is important to make sure that you eat. Conversely, though, I remember when I was drinking, I wouldn't want to eat before I go and drink because it will induce vomiting. So a lot of alcoholics in particular, drug users, they do not want to eat. They usually go use the drinking or drug on an empty stomach because it also causes you to get the immediate effect of the drugs. The food kind of slows it down. So many individuals skip meals. They eat mostly junk food. I remember all the cutters, we would be eating and pepper and all of that. They would drink instead of eating. And of course, when you're in withdrawal, the next day you're vomiting, you lose your appetite. Nothing can't stay down. So not only when you were drinking, you were depriving your body of nutrition. For days after, sometimes you are not able to eat properly. And then you spend money on drugs instead of food. A lot of people, rather than buy something to eat, they'll buy something to drink, or they'll buy cocaine or buy marijuana to smoke. You see a lot of these people who are homeless people who come in and begging you for money, and they will tell you, look, they want something to eat. But I know once you give them the money, they're heading straight to the block. They're not going to buy anything to eat. And if you offer to buy food for them instead of giving them the money, they get upset. I'm sure all our listeners, they could relate to this. So over time, this leads to serious nutrient deficiencies. Alcohol in particular interferes with the absorption of many essential nutrients. For example, chronic alcohol use reduces absorption of vitamin B, that is thiamine. It also reduces the absorption of vitamins B6, B12, folate, magnesium, and zinc. Now, this can lead to brain damage because your body depends on these essential minerals and vitamins for its not only development of the organs, but the maintenance and the good health, sustaining the good health of these organs. So that when we deprive ourselves of these very essential amino acids and vitamins and so on, we suffer brain damage. It also leads to nerve damage. And only this week I saw a patient coming to me who now have peripheral neuropathy. And as a young person, as a result of drinking alcohol, they severely severe nerve damage that there's so much pain in both legs and there's also, you know, fatty liver already there. So that you also suffer with memory problems because when we drink alcohol, a lot of times we can't remember the next day what happened, where we were, how we reached home, and all of that. So it leads to memory problems. And then, of course, when you're in withdrawal and you're not eating, you'll be weak, you'll be tired, you're always fatigued. And then finally, you reach to suffering with depression or anxiety. It also leads to poor concentration, poor recall. I remember, people smoking marijuana when I was studying Jamaica and readings, waking up all night, and next day they can't remember one single thing that they read. So that people who are recovering from addiction often complain about low energy. They have mood swings. They suffer with anxiety, irritability. They have sleep problems because a lot of these drugs, if they're not stimulants, they are sedatives. And when the body becomes dependent on these things, when you do not have them, when you're not taking them, and you're strongly suggested not to take it during when you are in recovery, you are going to your body is not going to be normal for a little while because your body used to be normal while you were under the influence. So you're going to have sleep problems, especially for those people who drank alcohol. They will suffer with insomnia in the initial stages of recovery. And this is why it is very important that they get help. Otherwise, because of the suffering and inability to sleep, they will go back to using the alcohol. Now, a lot of people go to the doctors and they are given a substitute, sedatives, sleeping pills. But that is a dangerous thing in that if you prescribe sleeping pills, they need to have an exit plan that they can only take this and wean themselves off it in a short while. But a lot of people, what is happening? They're already addicted to the alcohol, and now they have become addicted to the sleeping pills. So they have a double whammy here, double trouble as it were. And I'll tell you something from experience and practice. It is several times more difficult to come off the prescription pills than it is to come off the alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine, and so on. So many of these symptoms are not just psychological, they are also physical, they are also nutritional. So that let us look at how addiction affects the brain. Addiction directly affects the brain's chemistry in that drugs and alcohol disrupt important brain chemicals such as dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and endorphins. These are all chemicals in the brain that help us to manage our moods, help us to process our reality and deal with it. So if you went to temple and you sang or you went to the church and you sang and clapped and you feel good, it was because your brain released a little bit of dopamine. If your team win the match or you pass the exam, or even if you win the lotto, you feel happy. It was because your brain released a little dopamine. Now, what alcohol and these other drugs do, they also cause the brain to artificially release the dopamine. Like, for instance, cocaine The first time you use cocaine, it tend to release all the dopamine you have stored up. So you're going to feel so happy. You'll never forget that first feeling. And this is why a lot of addicts, cocaine addicts, the slang is that they keep looking for that head, that first experience, and you'll never get it. So these chemicals, they regulate mood, they regulate pleasure, they regulate motivation, they also manage stress, they help to put you to sleep, and they also create what is called emotional stability. So that when you interfere with them, when you have taken these drugs from outside, and your body starts becoming used to depending on these to help you with all of these moods that I've just listed, when you stop taking it, every one of these moods, your motivation, your insight, your ability to deal with stress, and all of that, your emotional stability is going to become disrupted. So that when a person stops using drugs or alcohol, the brain needs time to repair and rebalance itself. And that takes a little while depending on the drug you've been using, the amount you were using, the length of time you had been using it, your age at the time when you start using it, whether if you started from very early, whether you would have developed appropriate coping skills and ability to manage and resolve conflicts and all of that. So that this has severe implications all around. Nutrition plays a very important role in this process. The brain requires specific nutrients to produce neurotransmitters. For example, serotonin, the chemical that regulates mood and reduces depression, is made from amino acid called tryptophan, which comes from foods such as eggs, turkey, fish, nuts, and seeds. So if you're not eating these things or you're not taking sufficient of them, then you can deplete your serotonin level. And of course, by extension, it will affect your ability to manage your moods. And you know what will happen when you're feeling in the dumps or you're not feeling like you used to feel. The first thing your mind will go to is, if I go and take that drink, I will be all right. And that is what leads to the obsession, where when you're not drinking, you're thinking about it because you're going through all of these feelings. Now, dopamine regulates motivation and reward and is made from amino acids found in chicken, fish, beans, and dairy products. But when we drinking and using drugs, we don't only not eat these things, sometimes we're not eating at all. So without proper nutrition, the brain cannot rebuild these important chemicals. And of course, that will now lead to depression, anxiety, fatigue, and cravings. Because we have memory, we remember. I know these people who are trying to stop coming. I have a patient who is trying to get off sleeping pills that were prescribed years and years ago and she has become dependent on it. But in spite of all my suggesting to her, get rid of it, she can't go to sleep unless she knows she has it there just in case. A lot of people, especially with sleeping pills, they have to have a supply, they have a backup to the supply, and then have a backup to the backup. And so you have sleeping pills all over the place. And as soon as 5 minutes they lie down in the bed and they can't sleep, the mind starts making trips to the medicine cabinet where the sleeping pill is, and you are doomed. Once you have it available, you're going to take it. It's like you're in the desert and dying of thirst, and you know your friend has water. You will reach the point where you're ready to murder them to get it. So that if you want to stay away from drugs, one of the first things counselors tell drug addicts and alcoholics is distance yourself from where it is available, because once you know it is available, it's like torture, and these conditions increase the risk of relapse. Now, let us look at the blood sugar and cravings. One of the most important nutritional issues in addiction recovery is blood sugar instability. And one would think that this was only peculiar to diabetics, but no, even for people in recovery. Many people in recovery experience rapid changes in blood sugar levels. And this happens when people consume too much sugar, refined carbohydrates, sweet drinks, processed foods. So that when blood sugar rises quickly, the body releases insulin. Then the blood sugar level drops suddenly. Now, this drop can cause irritability, and this is in even normal people as well. This is not only peculiar to people in recovery. When you have spikes, they call them, cause provoking your pancreas to release a rush of insulin now because the sugar level has gone high. And the insulin comes and depletes it. Suddenly, you start becoming very irritable. You start suffering with anxiety, fatigue, confusion, and that too will lead to strong cravings. So that you'd find, I'm thinking as I'm saying this, a lot of people who are alcoholics will tell you they they really don't like to eat sweet things. They are more into chow and pepper and bitter and sour things. So that these symptoms can feel very similar to drug withdrawal when your blood sugar level drop. You understand? So that many people mistake these symptoms for emotional distress when they are actually experiencing blood sugar imbalance. And I know people, a lot of us decide, we look at an ad or somebody said something, tell us, hey, boy, you're putting on weight. Especially women, they're very sensitive to that, how they look. And I know this relative of mine who keep complaining about headaches, going to the doctor, taking the paracetamol and all of that, and still having headaches continue. But it was because they were trying to diet and lose weight now, and their blood sugar level was dropping suddenly, and they were getting the headache as a result of that. So that stable blood sugar helps reduce cravings and improves mood stability. So that for people in recovery, this is why they need to have medical evaluation and they need to follow up and understand the nature of their disease and what they can expect. Because you can easily confuse it, go back to using the drugs because you did not understand it was because of your sugar intake, your sugar instability. And this is why nutrition experts recommend that people in recovery, they eat regular meals, avoid excessive sugar, include protein in every meal, eat complex carbohydrates instead of refined carbohydrates. And this is an eye opener for a lot of people in recovery because we don't really pay attention to these things. We just go back to eating how we used to. And how we used to was when we were drinking as well, just the same thing. And we just, well, we know we're not diabetic, so don't worry about this. And then can't understand why we keep getting depressed and anxious and irritable and all of that. And we are in recovery, but we seem to have a short fuse, and I myself have to pay attention to this. This helps keep the brain and the body stable if we can eat regular meals, avoid excessive sugar, and that's something I like, sugar. Include protein in every meal and eat complex carbohydrates, which is like, the ground provisions and all of those things, because they don't release the carbohydrates as quickly. So you don't get this spike. And if you eat vegetables together with your carbohydrates, that further slows it down, the release of the carbohydrates, so that it keeps you in a good mood. Salads, God sent. Let us look at nutrient deficiencies now in addiction. So that many individuals entering recovery are deficient in key nutrients. Some of the most common deficiencies include the B vitamins. B vitamins are essential for brain function and energy production. And I want to say this, especially even if you're not an alcoholic, you're a vegetarian. Now, some of the B vitamins, the B12 in particular, we get it from meat, especially red meat and so on. So that people who are vegetarian need to. I am vegetarian, so we have to pay attention to make sure we're getting alternative sources of our vitamin B12. Otherwise, we will suffer with nerve damage. It's called myelin depletion, where you start getting tingling and numbness in the hands and the feet and all of that. Deficiency can cause depression, anxiety, fatigue, and poor memory. I'll say that again. When we are deficient in these B vitamins, we can suffer with depression, anxiety, fatigue, and poor memory. Where if we are deficient in magnesium, magnesium helps regulate the nervous system. Low magnesium levels can cause anxiety, restlessness, sleep problems, and muscle cramps. If we are deficient in zinc, zinc supports immune function and brain health. Deficiency in zinc can affect mood, appetite, and healing. Again, there's the omega-3 fatty acids. The omega-3 fatty acids are essential for brain repair. Low levels are associated with depression, mood instability, cognitive problems. So that foods rich in omega-3 include salmon, sardines, tuna, walnuts, and flax seeds. Restoring these nutrients can significantly improve how people feel during recovery. So you don't only want to stop, you want to stay stopped, but you don't only want to stay stopped, you want to stay stopped and be happy and comfortable being in recovery. And this is what is important. We have to start putting back the essential ingredients, minerals, and vitamins in our body to make recovery comfortable. So that foods that help recovery, let us look at the foods that help recovery. A healthy recovery diet should include a balance of protein, healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. And I've spoken about all of this before. Now, some of the most beneficial foods include lean protein. Protein helps repair tissues and supports neurotransmitter production. So good sources include fish, chicken, eggs, beans, lentils. I'm vegetarian, so I go for other things like tofu and paneer and peas, beans, and things like that. Plant-based protein, which really the essential amino acids is usually found in plant-based foods rather because eating the meat, yes, you get the protein, but you also put yourself at risk. And that's another topic we could talk about another time. Then a good source would also include whole grains. Whole grains provide steady energy and stabilize blood sugar. Examples: brown rice, oats, whole wheat, and quinoa. Now, brown rice, I know coming from an agricultural background down in South Gandhi village, we would carry the rice, the lagoon rice to the rice mill to have it milled. And if you look at, when you finish this program, you look at a grain of rice, you'll see there's a little corner, always a little thing in one end of the rice that is always missing. That little part that is missing has the essential riboflavin and thiamine and all of that that helps to balance the carbohydrate in the rest of the grain of rice. Now, in the milling process with white rice and so on, that is lost and it goes into the rice husk. In fact, the pigs who eat the rice husk, they benefit more than we who eat the rest of the grain because we only get the starches. We don't get the essential elements from that little corner that helps to balance the digestion of the rice grain. But the brown rice, because it is parboiled, a lot of these nutrients soak into the grain and then we get the benefit of it. I thought that's a little sidebar I thought I'd share from earlier knowledge about these things. Okay, fruits and vegetables. These provide vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber. They support brain health, immune function, and they also help to detoxify the body. So that those of us who have been using drugs for a long, long time, our gut health gets compromised. We have all kinds of, wrong kinds of probiotics inside that crave, sugar. We have craving for chocolate, and we have all kinds of things because our probiotics in the gut is messed up. So by eating healthy foods, plant-based foods, vegetables and salads and so on, we can improve the flora inside our intestines. Again, to add to that list of healthy foods for recovery, healthy fats are important because healthy fats support brain recovery. And sources of healthy fats include avocado, olive oil, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish like sardines and so on, herrings and so on. And well, I also use things like ghee and so on. A lot of people they have this big fear about cholesterol, but the brain is mostly cholesterol. And there are so many studies that are showing now that cholesterol really don't cause the heart attack. Is the lifestyle and your poor eating habits. All right. Now, a very important element that I see in my practice and remind all my patients, the importance of water. Hydration is extremely important in recovery because substance use often leads to dehydration. Drinking adequate water helps the body eliminate toxins and improves brain function. No chemical process can take place in the body if there's in the absence of water. You cannot burn up the fats if you're not drinking enough water. Your kidney and circulation, nothing will function well if you're not. 80% of the body is water. And I know you have water shortage in some areas, but please, give priority to make sure you're drinking sufficient water. And when I say that, a lot of people drink like camels. No, you don't drink a whole bottle one time and expect it to last for the rest of the day. It is better to keep water near to where you are all the time, in your car, near your chair, at your desk, so that you can always be sipping it. When you sip water, it really goes to the cells. But when you drink it, glug, 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 it goes straight into the bladder and it exists without really getting the full benefit of it. So let us look at practical nutrition strategies for people in recovery now. For people in recovery, nutrition does not need to be complicated. Here are some practical strategies. One, eat regular meals. Skipping meals can cause blood sugar crashes and cravings. So eat on time. Try to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and healthy snacks if necessary. Although I don't recommend too much snacking between meals, because you're just overburdening your digestive system. Include protein in every meal. Protein helps stabilize blood sugar and reduce cravings. So that even your dal and your lentil and your red bean and your black eye and all of those things, they have protein. Excess sugar can worsen mood swings and cravings. Many recovering addicts develop sugar addiction after stopping drugs or alcohol. They start substituting without realizing it because you want to feel good. You want to feel good right now. So you start going for sweet things. or going off on sweet things. Moderation is important. Avoid excessive caffeine. And I must say this to all those people who attend AA meetings, especially in the beginning, caffeine is a stimulant. And if you are coming to meetings because you have a problem with alcohol, which is a sedative, when you drink caffeine, you're going to have trouble more. Well, even if you didn't drink caffeine, when you stop alcohol, you're going to have trouble to sleep, especially in the beginning, the first few days or few weeks of recovery, because your sleep pattern, your biological clock in your body would have been oriented to, sleep whenever, get up whenever, no particular pattern. But now, if you go and drink caffeine with that, caffeine is a stimulant, it will make your insomnia worse. But again, it has become a habit and an expectation I see in the AA meetings because AA started in North America. And in North America, I mean, caffeine is offered without asking a lot of times because you expect that in the cold and, even in summer, place is still cold. When it's some hot here, it's still cool and people still gravitate to coffee. But here it has become a fad. Anyway, under medical guidance, supplements such as B-complex vitamins, magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids may support recovery as well. Again, as I mentioned before, it is important to improve your gut health because your gut is where all the medicines and the nutritions are separated and extracted from the food that we eat. So first we need to give the body the food. But then we have to have a proper gut. Our gut has to be healthy to be able to extract the food, the nutrients from the food that we eat and separate the vitamins and be able to send it to where it's necessary in the body. So that foods that help gut health, let me repeat that, foods that help gut health include yogurt, fermented foods, fiber-rich foods. I'll say that again. Yogurt, of course, people know it as dahi as well, which introduces healthy probiotics into the gut. Fermented foods also get rid of, like apple cider vinegar and so on, get rid of the bad ones. And then fiber-rich foods help to clean the gut. Helps to avoid constipation. It helps to so that you have a clean gut now. You can and put in the right probiotics. They help to break down the food and extract efficiently all the nutrients that is necessary in recovery. A healthy gut improves nutrient absorption and mood regulation. Now, nutrition and long-term recovery. Recovery is not just about stopping drugs or alcohol. It is about rebuilding the whole person. Physical health supports emotional health. In the school that I went to, Devi Hindu School, we used to have a sign at the entrance in Latin. In those days, Latin is always fashionable to put slogans and so on. And there was a written on that little signboard in front of the school at the entrance was mens sane in corpore sano. Mens sane in corpore sano, which meant a strong mind in a strong body. It is critical that you have, it's really useless to have a strong mind in a weak body or a weak mind in a strong body. Each of them doesn't really take you very far. So it's important to have a strong mind in a strong body. And so that physical health supports emotional health. When people begin to eat well, they often experience better energy levels, improved mood, clearer thinking, better sleep, and reduced cravings. And these are the things that you really want to be able to focus on in recovery. These improvements, they strengthen recovery. Nutrition alone cannot cure addiction, I must say. Just giving them the right food and all of that is not going to cure addiction, but it is a very, very useful adjunct that will complement recovery so that it can provide a strong foundation for healing. And the body is we are biopsychosocial spiritual beings. Bio means we have bones, muscles, organs, and so on. Then psycho, we have a mind, we have emotions, we have feelings. Social, we belong to groups, family, workplace, and all of that. And then most of us believe in a higher power of some sort, never mind the name, so that addiction, alcoholism, and drug addiction affects all four areas. And if we do not treat with all treatment plans that do not consider these four areas are doomed to failure before they start. So that we need to have a strong body that is eating the right food, exercise, and rest. We have to now keep the right attitude, change our attitude, stop being so egotistical and all of that and blaming others, starting taking more responsibility for ourselves, associating with the right people, going to AA meetings, going to the temple church, and so on. Because, if the peer pressure, it says, show me your friends and I can tell you who you are. So that it is important to be in the right company. And then, of course, a lot of people will tell you it's but for the grace of God, they're sober, that you must have that rebuild or reestablish or have that relationship with your higher power. So when these things are combined with counseling, support groups, spiritual growth, and healthy relationships, nutrition becomes an important part of long-term recovery. So that in closing, addiction damages the body, but the body also has incredible ability to heal. If we give the body the right nutritional elements, the right ingredients, the body can make all the medicine that we ever need. In fact, as I say that, let me stop a minute and look, the medicines that we take, that we have formulated through our knowledge of pharmacology and so on, all these tablets, they're made in 2, 5, 10 milligrams. And I worked in all the hospitals in Trinidad. I worked at Port of Spain Hospital, at St. Anne's Hospital, at Cora Hospital, San Fernando Hospital. And I'm yet to see, I don't know any doctor who can really figure out exactly how many milligrams that Dwarika should take as opposed to John or David. It's basically guesswork, I mean, the experienced doctors, they have a fairly good idea how much to prescribe from experience, but still it is not a precise discipline. So everybody gets either 2 milligram, 5 milligram, or 10 milligram to start with, and then you watch and see, well, whether it worked, and if it didn't work within 2 days, you double the dose, you understand? You repeat it again. But then again, the body, even though you're managed by luck and chance to hit on the right, correct dosage, remember the body is always seeking to neutralize the drug. So just like any other drug, whether it be illicit or illicit, the body develops tolerance. So you'll find after a little while, 2 milligram don't work. You need more. Or 5 don't work. So there's something called a half-life. For medicine to work generally, they have to give you a dose that overwhelms the liver. Because the liver, if it is not produced in nature, the liver is going to block it. So that any tablet you take that is synthetic, that was not made in nature by plants or animals and so on, the liver is going to block it. And the way to get that medicine to work, you have to give such a dosage that the liver becomes overwhelmed. While you're dealing with a small amount, the balance gets to go into the system freely. And as if that is not sufficient, I mean, this is not to criticize my medical friends, but we have injections that bypass the liver right out altogether, and that is why you get such a rapid effect from a medication because it goes straight into the bloodstream. However, I want you to recognize that when we're taking all of these medication and we are overwhelming our liver, we are literally damaging our liver all the time. You understand? Because we are overpowering, and the liver is like the customs department of the body that protects us from harmful bacteria and viruses and all these toxins and so on. The liver is there to detox it. But if we keep overwhelming it, and a lot of these medicines, they have side effects that we still not even aware. I don't know all these drug companies with all their powerful lobby in Washington and all about. They get all kinds of things passed. The jury still seems to be out on the latest vaccine that we took, and a lot of people are still claiming that it has left them. Some of them can't smell anything, and I have had that experience up to now. And some people can't taste. Some people have suffered severe effects, because while the benefits, sometimes we don't know if the cost really, the cost might overpower the benefits that we get from some of these drugs. If you really look at the research. So that I'm saying, again, we all can choose what we want to do here. I have chosen as far as possible to eat the right things, live the right way, so that I could give my body the best chance to heal itself without having to depend on anything from outside, like medication and so on. I'm not saying there are times in crisis when we need to have medicine. And this is why I see, acupuncture and all of these things as complementary, not as alternative, that can complement allopathic medicine. That's another subject. But let me just say that in closing today, addiction damages the body, but the body also has an incredible ability to heal. So that when individuals enter recovery and begin to nourish themselves properly, the brain and the body begin to repair. So that good nutrition helps stabilize mood, it reduces cravings, it restores energy levels, and it strengthens the recovery process. Recovery is not only about removing harmful substances from the body, it is also about putting healthy things back into the body. So that food is not just fuel, food is medicine. Remember when I started, I said that if we don't eat our food as medicine, then we will have to eat medicine as food. And as I say this, I remember my grandmother and mother, and in every meal, they would, when they grind the masala, prepare the curry, as we say, they would include things like turmeric, that is hardi. They will include ginger. These are all natural healing, cumin, the various spices are not only to give flavor, but they also have medicinal benefits. The cayenne pepper, and we are learning now, all of these things has medicinal benefits, and they were included in every meal. So that when you work all day and tore up your muscle fibers and so on, and you're starting to develop inflammation and pain in the back and the food and all of that, and you had your masala with the hardi in it and so on, it will move out all the inflammation overnight while you're sleeping, and next day you are good to go again. And so that when used wisely, nutrition can become an important partner in the journey of recovery. So I want to thank you all for joining us for today's program. And remember, recovery is possible, healing is possible, and every positive step, no matter how small, moves us, it moves us closer to a healthier life. So you just don't only want to stop using drugs and alcohol. You want to also be happy doing so and healthy. So if you have questions, of course, you can post it on our YouTube or Facebook channel. You can call it, you can text the number on your screen, 768-5925. And remember, this program is going to be posted again on YouTube and Facebook in a few minutes. It will also be repeated on radio and TV Jagriti at 10 p.m. tonight. So you can sit at your own convenience and listen to it and review. And if you have questions, you can also call me at 671-3040, and I'll be happy to respond to them. And as I said earlier at the beginning of the program, if you have any topic, any questions that you would like to suggest, I can deal with them on this program. As today, I want to again thank my friend for suggesting this topic, which I myself found very, very illuminating for myself. So that I want to also thank Radio and TV Jagriti for providing this airtime free of charge to all our brothers and sisters worldwide as a public service, so that, listen, although you may not have a problem, but you may know someone who has a problem. Or because of the nature of alcoholism and drug addiction, it is cunning, baffling, and powerful, and you might think you're a social drinker. But once it is causing problems in your life, whether it be financial, relationship, health, work, whatever, once it is causing problems and you realize it is causing problems, you need to do something. It's not fun again. It is not recreational. It could very well be that you have become dependent on the alcohol and so on. And remember, this is in stages. Some people at the beginning stage where it is not such a big problem yet, but I use the word yet. Once you continue to use alcohol and drugs, it's just a question of time. All those people who ended up on the streets, they never set out, in the beginning to end up there. Some of them had good prospects of a good future, but they started with that same first one drink, and eventually one led to two, and eventually they are where they are. So I want to thank you all again for listening. Have a good week. Have a sober week. Even if you don't have an addiction problem, please eat properly. Use your food as medicine, and you'll have a healthy and happy life. So thank you all very much.